Hey, what's up DDO players? Axel here. Welcome to another video in my enhancement tree series. Today I'm going over the purple dragonite and human enhancement trees. If you want to check out my other enhancement tree videos, you can find links to all of them in the description below. As I do in all of these videos, I'll be going through each enhancement one by one, trying to give you an idea of which are the best to take and which you should definitely avoid. As I always say in these videos, these are just my opinions. I try my best to give you an idea of what you should take on a min-max basis, meaning which you should take if you're trying to max out your character's abilities and make your character as best as you can. I try my best to do this, but I'm not claiming that everything I say in this video is 100% accurate. Although, like I said, I do try my best. I'm going to cover the purple dragonite tree first, and then I'll go over to the human tree and go over the differences. Now, the purple dragonite and human trees are not completely identical, but most of their enhancements are the same. There are a few differences. Like I said, I'll go over that when I get to the human version of the tree. I'll go over the few that are in there, and I'll also go over which enhancements are in the purple dragonite tree that humans don't get and which enhancements are in the human tree that are not in the purple dragonite tree. Let's get started with the purple dragonite cores. The first core is Human Versatility. Human Versatility is a multi-selector that lets you pick from 6 different attack boosts. You can select one. I'll go through each of them one by one. The first one is Human Versatility Attack Boost. This adds a +6 action boost to your hit for 20 seconds. Not a good choice. You don't want to take this one because to hit is not a problem in DDO. There's many ways to increase your to hit, such as accuracy items, and just increasing your strength in general will get your hit to a reasonable level. The only possible application I can think for this action boost is at very low levels when you want to use power attack, and you might have a little bit to hit problems at that low of a level, but even then it's probably not going to be that helpful, and you don't need to be relying on a 20-second action boost to boost your to hit in general. Let's move on to Human Versatility Damage Boost, and this is going to be by far the best one for most melees. What this does is gives you a 20-second boost to your damage. It gives you a 20% action boost bonus to your damage for 20 seconds. And that's a huge boost. Plus 20% damage is a lot. And the other cool thing is this can be used at the same time as Kensei Haste Boost from the Kensei tree to really give you a lot of synergy there. So for 20 seconds you can have plus 20% damage, and at the same time as you're using Haste Boost you can have a increase to your attack speed. So there's a lot of synergy there. It's a really great tool for increasing your burst DPS. Next one is Defense Boost, which adds a +2 action boost bonus to your armor class and PRR for 20 seconds. I wouldn't recommend this one because it just doesn't last long enough to be worth it. If you're having problems staying alive, you're going to be healing yourself. You're not going to be relying on a 20-second boost to your PRR. The only possible application I can see for this is running through traps, but even then, it's probably not the best. Next one is Saves Boost, and it's kind of in the same boat here. The +4 action boost to saves is nice, but it only lasting 20 seconds just doesn't help you a lot. Just too short. Now, Human Versatility Skill Boost is amazing for rogues and artificers. It adds for 20 seconds a +4 action boost to all skills. So you can hit this boost before you open that locked door, before you open that chest or that disable that trap, and it'll give you a +4 bonus to your disable device, your spot, whatever skill you need for that 20 seconds. So you can pop this boost right before you want to use your rogue skills, and it will increase your chances of succeeding. Next one is Spell Power Boost. This one is just okay. Even if you're a human sorcerer, it's really not going to be all that helpful because a +20 action boost to universal spell power is just on a percentage basis, not as much of a boost as this damage boost is for fighters. So it's okay, but it's something you'll probably put in your hotbar and end up not pressing much. Let's move on to Human Adaptability. Human Adaptability is another multi-selector which lets you add +1 to whichever stat you'd like. This is one of the good things about humans. You can use this core to even up whatever stat you need. Maybe you have a 31 intelligence on your human wizard and you want to use this ability to give you that extra +1 you need to get to an even number so that you get an extra DC. A lot of uses for this, but you can go back and reset your enhancements as needed as you level up and pick whatever stat you need to make sure your stats are even at all times. Now, as we go on through the cores, we have another human versatility, another human adaptability, and yet another human versatility. These are all the same as the first two cores. The only thing is, for your extra human boost here, your human versatility boost, you cannot take the same boost that you took in the first core. And also for the second human adaptability that you get here, you cannot increase the same stat that you increased here in the second core. Let's move on to Tier 1. Tier 1, the first enhancement here is Cormyrean Knight Training. What this does is lets you use your charisma if it's higher than your strength for attack and damage with short swords, long swords, bastard swords, and great swords. In addition, as long as your charisma is higher than your strength and you're wielding one of these weapons, you get a 1/3 of your charisma modifier added to your tactical DCs. Okay, so that's kind of complicated, but overall, this is a very niche enhancement. There's only a few builds, and none of them are your most powerful builds in the game that can really benefit from this. It might be an option for some Bard builds or some Eldritch Knight Sorcerer builds, but most builds aren't going to be interested in this, and that charisma modifier isn't actually a boost to your DCs per se. Because most DCs go off of your strength, the only thing that 1/3 of your charisma modifier is doing is helping you catch up to what you would have had if you would have invested in strength in the first place. So if you're running some kind of niche Eldritch Knight Sorcerer build or maybe some kind of Bard build, possibly a Paladin build, you might want to consider this. But other than that, you'll not want to take this. Another problem with this is it narrows you down to short swords, long swords, bastard swords, and great swords, and none of those are really great weapons. Now, bastard swords are nice, but in terms of a single, if you're doing single weapon fighting, you'll probably want to go with Kopeshes. If you're doing two-handed fighting, you'll probably want to go with like a Falcon or a Maul or a Great Axe. And none of those weapons I just mentioned are supported in this enhancement, so it's tough to use. Let's move on to Skill Focus. This is another multi-selector, and it gives you a bonus in a variety of different skills. You can pick which skill you'd like to increase. The only one that I think is worth the points is Nimble Fingers, which is the 5th selector here, which adds a +1 to your disable device and open lock. Now that will be useful for rogues, but if you are not a rogue or an artificer or someone, or maybe a trapping wizard, whatever, if you're not someone who does traps, you're not going to want to take this, obviously. So if you're a rogue, you might want to consider this. If you're a trapper, you might want to consider this. But all these other ones just are not worth the points. +1 balance, jump, swim, and tumble. You know, +1 listen, that's not really great. +1 concentration, intimidate. You know, these are not vital skills to most classes, and it's not worth spending an action point just to increase them by +1. With the exception, as I said, of Nimble Fingers, which can be nice for a trapper wanting to increase their DC. So let's move on to Action Surge, and this line takes up the middle of the tree. This allows you to add a stat boost to each of your action boosts when they're used. So if you use this, say you have human versatility damage boost that you got from your first core, anytime you use that, if you took this enhancement, you could also increase your constitution while the action boost is used, or maybe your strength. Or if you're a wizard or a sorcerer and you took the spell power boost here in the first core, you could get a bonus to your intelligence or your charisma when the action boost is active if you take this action surge enhancement. Now, this one's kind of up to personal preference. The effectiveness of this enhancement is going to depend on how often your build is using action boosts. If you're the type of player who just doesn't like to hit action boosts much, you're definitely not going to want to take this. But if you're maybe a Kensei or something, a very action boost focused type build, then you might want to consider this. Getting say a plus an addition to your constitution or addition to your strength for some extra damage or some extra hit points while your boosts are active might be worth it to you. And as you go up this tree, you can take action surge boost in each in a variety of different stats. So say you're a Kensei fighter, you can take an action surge boost in strength and then an action surge boost in constitution, and you can effectively get more strength and more constitution anytime an action boost is active. So up to you. If you use a lot of action boosts, you might want to consider it, but if you don't, you definitely don't want to take anything in this middle line. Okay, then now we get to one of the best enhancements in this tree, and one of the great perks about being a human. The improved recovery line increases your healing amp. There's 3 different tiers. This first tier is very cheap. It only requires, I believe, 1 point spent in this tree, and it's a plus 20 healing amplification. Really awesome enhancement. You're definitely going to want to take that. Healing amp is such a huge asset to survivability in this game. The quicker you can heal yourself, the more likely that burst damage is not going to kill you. Heal amp is one of the best tools, if not the best tool, in the game to surviving burst damage. Let's move on to the next enhancement, which is Don't Count Me Out. And this is an awesome enhancement. It adds, if you take all 3 tiers, plus 10 bonus to your PRR and plus 20 to your, not to your hit points, but I'll explain this in a second, but plus 20 to the HP range that you have if you are under 50% health. And it says your range of unconsciousness. You might not know what that means. If you don't have this enhancement or any other enhancement to boost your unconsciousness range, you will actually be able to stay alive down to all the way down until you'll get to negative 10 hit points. Now you'll be unconscious from negative 9 hit points to 0, but you won't be dead. Someone could hit you with a heal spell to raise you. But if you take this enhancement, it will extend your range of unconsciousness by 20, so you can go all the way to negative 29 hit points before you die. So this can help your survivability a little bit. It kind of stinks that it only kicks in when you're under 50% health, but it's still a really nice enhancement to have. Let's move on to Purple Dragon Focus, and this is a complete waste. You only get what this does is it adds temporary hit points anytime you use an action boost, but the number of hit points you gain from this enhancement are so minuscule. Even if you invest 3 action points in it, you only get 15 temporary hit points when you use an action boost. So it's just not worth it. That 15 hit points is so inconsequential, especially in epics, just not near worth the points. Okay, and let's move on to Purple Dragon Aura. This adds to the saving throws of allies around you. It adds plus 2 bonus to all their saves if you invest in all 3 tiers here. However, this only kicks in if you are near your allies. It's a lot better on a melee who's going to be near allies, your party members, a lot more often than, say, a caster who hangs in the back. So if you're a melee, you'll get more mileage out of this. So overall, it's not a bad enhancement. I don't think I would take it. There's probably better things to spend your hit points in, and having a bonus to your allies' saving throws, it's just not something they're going to be able to rely on. Let's move on to, well, let's see. We've already covered Action Surge. Let's move on to Fighting Style. And we have yet another multi-selector. Some of these are great, some of them are not so good. I'll go through each one by one. Ambidexterity, not very good. It only adds a +1 to hit when dual wielding or fighting. It's just not worth it. As I said earlier, to hit is just not a problem in this game. Great Weapon Aptitude, not really worth it. It adds a little bit of a chance to increase your glancing blows, but just not going to be worth the points. Shield Mastery, again, not really, I don't think it's really worth the points. It's just a small boost to your shield armor class and your maximum dexterity bonus when using a tower shield. Now Sniper, this one is great. Now I would have to put some points in here to show you the all three tiers, but if you invest into all three tiers, it actually increases the range of your ranged sneak attack, so you can get sneak attack damage on your mechanic rogue from farther away. So this can effectively give you a lot more sneak attack damage because you don't have to be quite as close to get it. So I think this is great for your mechanic rogues. And then Traditionalist Caster gives you a bonus to your universal spell power when wielding an orb or a staff. Not a great deal. You have to invest 3 action points to get up to +10. Now it's not showing this on the screen because I don't have the points invested below it, but if you invest all 3 action points here, you get up to +10 universal spell power when wielding an orb or a staff. Probably not the best deal for 3 action points. Let's move on to Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry adds a +20% action boost to your movement speed and a +3 action boost to saving throws for 20 seconds if you invest all 3 tiers. Now this is great for zerging, but that's about it. Short temporary boosts to your saving throws I don't think are that helpful. Like I said before, maybe useful for running through traps, but that's about it. But if you're a zerger and you want to just pound through a past life or something, this getting any bonus to your movement speed is going to be a direct bonus to your XP. So a +20% action boost to movement speed is effectively a +20% bonus to your XP when you think about it. Of course, this is temporary, so that's not true. It would be more true if it was a permanent boost, but you know what you get the idea. When you bonus movement speed basically equate to bonuses to experience points because you can get through this, you can zerg through the quest faster. Okay, the next enhancement is Shield Deflection, which gives you the Shield Deflection feat. Now this is completely useless in my opinion. Don't take it because while it sounds nice, say if you read this description here, if you're wearing a tower shield and you're actively blocking, you can reduce any kind of elemental damage by 40%, and that's a lot. But the thing that makes this worthless is it requires that you are actively blocking for it to work. If you're not actively blocking, then it's not going to work. And no one actively, I guess you could, but it's just not feasible to actively block, because you're blocking, you can't be attacking or anything. You can just, all it's going to do is stand there. And tanking really is mostly dead in this game, so the fact that this requires an active blocking for it to even take effect just makes it worthless. Let's move on to the next one. We've covered improved recovery already. There's 3 tiers. Let's move on to Heroism, which, as you can tell, gives you use of the Heroism spell as an SLA. This seems nice, but it's actually useless because there's so many potions and clickies available to get Heroism. You can buy potions, I believe, in almost any area of the game, and they have a 5-minute duration. So there's really just not a reason to invest in this one unless you want to move up to the next tier of Greater Heroism, which I'll cover in a minute. Okay, let's move on to the 5th tier. I guess technically it's what, 4th? The cores don't count, so it's technically the 4th tier. But first enhancement is Final Stand, and what this does is you and all allies within your aura gain temporary hit points equal to your Intimidate score for 20 seconds. And if you are below 50% health when you use this, you also get a +20 morale bonus to PRR for 20 seconds. Okay, now this is useless because it only lasts 20 seconds. and you don't even get a PRR bonus unless you're under 50% health. So it's just not worth it. It's just too short. The temporary hit point bonus just, I don't think it's that great. First of all, this is only going to be applicable really to fighters or maybe barbarians or someone who has an Intimidate. Now you can get your Intimidate pretty high to give yourself maybe, what, 80 or 90 temporary hit points, but still, they're temporary hit points, and it's still, even if you have a maxed out Intimidate score, it's just not going to be that great, and it's too short of a boost. I just don't think it's near worth it. Let's move on to Fort Coromir. What this does is you can heal yourself to full only once per rest. If you are below 50% health, when you use this, you and all your nearby allies gain a morale bonus to weapon damage equal to your charisma modifier for 2 minutes. Now, this sounds nice, but there's so many different healing options out there. You're not going to need to rely on this to heal yourself to full. The damage boost is really nice, but because you can only use this once per rest, I don't think it's worth it. Now, if you have a high charisma, say you have a plus 20 bonus to your charisma fire or something, that's going to be a really nice damage boost to party members for 2 minutes. So for a raid boss, it might be kind of nice if you have 11 other party members that can benefit from it. But overall, because it only lasts 2 minutes and because it's only one use per rest, I don't know if I could justify spending points here. But if you're going to go all the way up to tier 5, you may as well take this anyway. So this is something that's up to you. It's going to depend on what kind of quests you run. It's going to be much more helpful in raids than it will be regular quests because you'll have more party members that can benefit from the boost. So it's really a toss-up, up to you if you want to take this or not. Let's move on to the final enhancement, which is Greater Heroism. And as you might have guessed from the previous enhancement, this gives you a boost or gives you an SLA of Greater Heroism. And this is really nice in heroics if you're a non-arcane and you don't want to bother farming for GH clickies if you don't get the spell naturally. However, this ability is much less useful in epics, especially mid to late epics, since there's several pieces of gear that give you a Greater Heroism effect, such as the epic boost of the Innocent in Epic Necro 4. So if you're running a tune that you may not want to farm for a GH clicky, it can be really nice just as a convenience. But I think for most serious players who are going to grind out stuff like a Planar Gird or who are going to have UMD for GH scrolls, it's really not going to be that useful. So it's going to be very character dependent on whether you take this or not, and how much and what clickies you have, and if you're willing to grind for clickies. Okay, that's all for the Purple Dragonite tree. Now we're going to switch over to the human tree, and I'll explain some of the differences between human and Purple Dragonite, and I'll also go over the enhancements that are in the human enhancement tree but are not in the Purple Dragonite tree. Now that I've switched over to a human character, we can go over the differences between the human and the Purple Dragonite enhancement trees. The biggest difference is that humans get dragon marks and Purple Dragonites do not. And the human dragon marks are really good. There's also a few other differences throughout the tiers. In tier 2, humans do not get Cormyrean Knight training. In tier 3, humans do not get the Shield Deflection enhancement or Rallying Cry. In tier 4, humans don't get Final Stand or Fort Coromir. However, in tier 2, humans get a second tier of Skill Focus, whereas PDK only gets one tier, and that is right here. Humans also get Skill Mastery, whereas PDK doesn't. So this little line right here is exclusive to humans. So let's start, before we get to the biggest difference, which is the dragon marks, let's go over Skill Mastery. We already went over Skill Focus in the PDK tree. Skill Mastery gives you a +1 to all skills. Not the best enhancement in the world, but it's useful, maybe useful for rogues who utilize multiple skills so they can benefit from this +1 in several different areas because it would increase their open lock, their search, their disabled device, etc. A lot of other classes that aren't trappers only rely on 1 or 2 skills, whereas rogues and artificers and anyone who's a trapper tends to rely on many more. So for trappers, you might want to consider it, but even then it's expensive with 2 action points, so you probably won't take it in any circumstance, but possibly consider it as a trapper. Okay, let's go to the dragon marks. And if you're a new player and you aren't aware, to unlock this dragon mark, these dragon mark lines, you have to take a dragon mark feat. So it does cost you a feat to take these. And for a lot of races, that's not worth it. But for humans, it's definitely worth it. These dragon marks are awesome. Let's start with the first tier. Now, the first tier is nothing too exciting. You basically are only going to take this first tier in order to move up to the next tier. This first tier doesn't give you much. You can get extra dragon mark uses, a little bit of extra repair, intimidate, balance, or search. But like I said, you're going to have to spend points here, but that's only to move up to the next tier. Okay, the second tier, this is probably the best enhancement in the human tree. You can unlock Dimension Door as an SLA, and Dimension Door, I don't believe there are Dimension Door scrolls in the game. There are no Dimension Door clickies. The only way you can use Dimension Door outside of having an SLA in this human tree is there's an SLA in the Rogue Epic Destiny Shadow Dancer. Other than that, the only way you can use Dimension Door that I know of is by having it as an arcane spellcaster, either a sorcerer or a wizard. But if you're not one of those classes and you want Dimension Door, Human is a great choice. Dimension Door has so many uses, especially if you're a Zerger. Being able to teleport quickly back to the beginning of a quest has so many applications. Just a great spell to have. Such a great convenience. And the final tier here is not quite as good, but it's still awesome. You can get Teleport. Now, Teleport, there is a clicky for Teleport, the Royal Guard Mask. And that's the only teleport clicky in the game. You can also get Teleport through UMD, and if you're a arcane spellcaster, you will get Teleport as well. But it's still nice to have. It's still a great convenience for a class who won't be investing in UMD to be able to get the Teleport spell. And unless I've missed any, that's the only differences between the PDK and the human enhancement trees. So guys, I hope this video helps you. I hope you, if you're a new player, I hope you learned a thing or two. I hope you heard some ideas that might make you think of these enhancements in a different way, or maybe you listening to this video helped wipe off some rust, or maybe you just aren't that familiar with this racial tree. But in any case, whether you're new or a vet, I hope you found something helpful in this video, and as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe and tell your DDO friends and guildies about my channel. Thanks for watching.